everyone, and welcome to the first part of my very first bookshelf tour. As you'll see, I have an IKEA Expedite 5x5 bookshelf, as well as having my own little original bookshelf over on the side here. I didn't want to rush through anything, so I'll be touring my collection in 5 or 6 parts rather than making one epic hour-long video. My shelves are organised by genre and include sections for fiction, YA, children's literature, art books and illustrated works, classics, poetry and plays, sci-fi and fantasy, non-fiction, biography and language. I'm pretty proud of my little collection and I can't wait to share it with you. Let's get started. So this is the top row of my bookshelf and the one that I'm going to show you guys today. The 2 cubes on the left have all my young adult books in them, and the 3 on the right have my adult fiction or just my general fiction. In the first cube on the left hand side, I have a lot of my hardcover YA books, just because they all fit together relatively nicely on this shelf. There are also some paperbacks just up the top here. So the first book up the top is Maureen Johnson's The Name of the Star, which is an awesome book with a truly terrible cover. And then the other 4 books are Marcus Zusak books. The first one is The Messenger, then The Book Thief, which practically everyone has read and which is one of the only books I've read which is 100% deserving of all the hype that it has. This is absolutely phenomenal. Then there's When Dogs Cry, the 3rd book in the Underdog series, which is a contemporary, and Fighting Reuben Wolf, which is the 2nd book in the series. I've raved about these 2 before. I'll find a link for where I talked about them because they're just absolutely incredible. Then starting down the bottom, I have Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I thought this one was pretty good. I wasn't overly fond of the writing style. I also talked about this one in a wrap-up somewhere, so I will link that one down below as well if you want to hear more about what I thought about the book. Then there's Daughter in Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I haven't read this one. I was hesitant to pick it up because I hated the first cover with the blue mask on it. Absolutely despised it. But this cover is pearlized, if you can see that. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous, so I couldn't resist it. Next is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. And because I loved Eleanor and Park so much, I also bought Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, which I haven't had a chance to read yet. Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews. And then the Hunger Games series. So that's The Hunger Games, which was great, Catching Fire, which was pretty good, and Mockingjay, which, yeah, no thank you. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs, which I found enjoyable, but I don't think it lived up to the hype. It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini, which was phenomenal. And the last one on this shelf is The Madness Underneath by Maureen Johnson, which is the follow-up to The Name of the Star, which I have in paperback just up the top there. And moving on. This second cube has the rest of my paperback YA books. So up the very top is Let It Snow, the collab by John Green, Maureen Johnson and Lauren Miracle. I love John and Maureen's stories, despised Lauren's so much. But the first 2/3 of the book were fantastic. Next I have Across the Universe by Beth Revis, which as I mentioned in the My Life in Books tag, I have not yet read. Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan, which I was not a huge fan of, although I am a huge fan of this super sparkly cover. Paper Towns by John Green, as well as Looking for Alaska. And then I have my Tifios audiobook just over the side here. Under that audiobook I have Memoirs of a Teenage Amnesiac by Gabrielle Zevin, which I read many years ago, so I have no idea whether I enjoyed it or not. And then I have the Delirium series by Lauren Oliver in impressively mismatched editions. So that's Delirium, Pandemonium, and then Requiem. All that's left on this shelf are my Cassandra Clare books, who I have a love-hate relationship with. In the Mortal Instruments series, I have City of Bones, and then City of Glass. I do have City of Ashes, which is the 2nd book. It's just been lent out to a friend right now. I don't own City of Fallen Angels because I borrowed it from the library. So then I have City of Lost Souls, which is the 5th book, and I'm waiting with bated breath for the 6th one, which I think is due out sometime next year. And then there's also the Infernal Devices series, which is so much better than the Mortal Instruments series. Again, I don't have the first one, Clockwork Angel, because I borrowed it from the library. So I have the last 2, Clockwork Prince and Clockwork Princess, which I actually did a spoiler-free review of. And that completes my YA section. I know I don't have a lot of YA books in comparison to a lot of other people on BookTube, but I do prefer to borrow them from the library just so I can be sure I'm going to like them before I splurge the money to buy them. The 3rd cube is the first of my 3 fiction sections. Most of these are relatively recent purchases, so I haven't read a great deal of these fiction books. Up the top I have 2 Sue Townsend books. This one is The Growing Pains of Adrian Mole, and this one is The Lost Diaries of Adrian Mole. They're all part of the series which started with The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole, age 13 3/4. They're all pretty funny, but the first one is definitely the best. The Time Traveller's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. Jasper Ford's The Air Affair, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, The Broom of the System by David Foster Wallace, Atonement by Ian McEwan, Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami, Bridget Jones's Diary by Helen Fielding, which is hilarious, Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer, which clearly I started, as you can tell by the bookmark in here. I did not get very far with this one before I gave up. I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it. And this is a short story collection called McSweeney's Enchanted Chamber of Astonishing Stories, and it's edited by Michael Chabon. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Society, The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, How We Are Hungry by Dave Eggers, which is a collection of short stories. I've been reading it bit by bit for a while now, and I'm about halfway through, and it's just phenomenal. The Help by Catherine Stockett, and Super Sad True Love Story by Gary Steingart. More fiction, which is kindly being guided by Domicon. Michael Ondaatje's The English Patient, The Driver's Seat by Muriel Spark, The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides, which I bought at the Strand in New York, where they price it cheaper than you can get it on the Kindle, which is pretty awesome. My Name is Memory by Anne Brashears, Life of Pi by Yann Martel, Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. I couldn't decide whether to put this in fiction or in classics, but it fitted with these books, so it's fiction. On Her Majesty's Secret Service by Ian Fleming. This is the only Bond book I own, but I thought the cover was just so gorgeous, I couldn't leave it there. Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Cloud Street by Tim Winton, My French Whore by Jean Wilder, which I read earlier this year for the 30-day read. The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan, which I thought was just so unique and an absolute joy to read. Haha, joy. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. I can't even articulate what I loved about this book, but it was just absolutely inspiring and fascinating, and I think everyone should read this book. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, which I adore, so then I bought 3 other Salinger books which I haven't read yet. 9 Stories, Franny and Zoe, and Raise High the Roof Bean Carpenters, and Seymour An Introduction. This is the last part of my fiction section, and these books are just grouped together because they're the same size and it worked well. So up the top is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess in this gorgeous 50th anniversary edition with the orange pages, which I just love. David Foster Wallace's The Pale King, which I think also has a pretty cool cover. And then the first 3 books in the Wicked series by Gregory Maguire. There's Wicked, which has this pretty cool flip-open cover. Son of a Witch, which also has a cool flip-open cover. And A Lion Among Men, which looks like it has a cool flip-open cover, but it doesn't. Why would they do that? The Ask by Sam Lipsyte with this gorgeous watercolour cover. Ben Elton's Dead Famous. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey by Ken. And down the bottom is Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I read this one this month and I just thought it was absolutely delightful. When I do a wrap up for the books I've read since I last posted, I'll definitely be talking more about this one because it was just wonderful. Shades of Grey by Jasper Fforde, which has possibly my favourite book cover of all time. And Freedom by Jonathan Franzen.